Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I'm Dr. Andrew Scaff. He is Dr. Michael Wiemer, Esquire. On today's show, we'll preview the NFL's Week 13, including the Thanksgiving games and the Chiefs playing on Black Friday. We'll also talk about a little bit about baseball. There's a Royals trade that was announced this week, so we'll talk about that a little bit. But we'll start today we've been starting the last few weeks, I guess, anyway, with the NFL's recap from the previous week and the Chiefs' victory this time. Now over the 30-27 win over Carolina Panthers. Closer game than probably most or all Chiefs fans would have liked, and the
Mm.
bettors as well that were betting on the Chiefs to cover the spread, which they did not come even close to. But Mike, they did win. Now they are you concerned still with the Chiefs? Defense hasn't been looking so great. Offense maybe looked a little better. But yeah, what do you think? Are you happy with the win? Concerned about some things, or doesn't matter? They're still winning, so that's all. It's no big deal.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think every win that's closer maybe than you would expect or want it to be is concerning, but they are winning. They've only lost one, again, they've only lost the one game to Buffalo in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Uh, they played, I think I don't know if they made Carolina look good, but they probably played their best game of the year. Bryce Young certainly did, I think. I don't know if that's because the Chiefs were so bad that it made Carolina look good, or is that maybe Carolina is just progressing as a team? They're still a very young team. First year coach Dave Canales. Bryce Young is starting to get his footing back after being benched for a few games. So, he was the number one overall pick. Maybe you might even ask, is he playing better right now than CJ Stroud is? The Texans have been struggling quite a bit lately, and Stroud has been struggling a bit lately. So, um, in terms of career, Stroud's been much better so far, but maybe if you talk about the last 2, 3 weeks, maybe it's closer now, or you might even
Yeah.
say Young has the edge lately. Um, but I think, yeah, it was a game that was too close, but and it doesn't seem like it was really the offense's fault, but the defense they gave, I think the problem was with the defense they give up uh, big plays early and late. They kind of do well in the middle of the game, but this week they let that final drive let them score on that final drive. Although they did let them score early enough that the Chiefs still had a lot of time at the end, which was better than what happened in Buffalo, where uh, the Chiefs were down too far to be able to capitalize on the last
Yeah.
minute. So. It's hard to say. The Chiefs, even when they're playing well, they don't blow teams out. One thing that was encouraging was that I think Mahomes said he was tired of these close games and wanted some blowouts. So maybe that will change the tide, and maybe against um, Vegas this week, maybe the Chiefs will have an easy victory. They are favored by 12.5 points, which is obscenely high, I think. But
Especially for the Chiefs. That's surprising that it's that high.
yeah, I
They've
guess
not been covering spreads that are smaller than that.
they
So
haven't won any games by
more
more than
teams.
12 points this year. And that they won their biggest game. I think it was against the 49ers. They won by 12, 28-16 this year. So
Yeah.
are you worried about the Chiefs?
I don't say I'm so much worried about it. That game was way closer than it should have been now. Like, man, but yeah, worried. I don't know. I think maybe they're past that point where they've lost a game now. They're not worried about having a perfect season, but they are worried about, trying to get healthy and not really being that successful at that because they're having apparently another like kind of slew of injuries for
Yeah.
players have come in now between the end of the game and today when we're recording this. So, um, you know, but there's also some hope that there are some players coming back possibly this week too. So, maybe they're starting to turn the corner on some like player health. But I think maybe they're slipping back into that mentality they had last year, just to just win games, get to the playoffs. turn it on in the playoffs, not worry about so much how they win the game, just make sure they have enough wins to where they want to be in the seed they want for the playoffs. And then they probably have this mindset that, once the playoffs start, they're locked in, they're going to win, whatever they can. I think that's what they're trying to get back to. Now they're not worried about perfection anymore. Is that,
Possibly. I think there's been some steps forward. You think, okay, Noah Gray has been really good the last couple of games. He has 4 touchdowns in 2 games.
yeah,
Uh, DeAndre Hopkins had another touchdown this week. It seems like maybe Juju Smith-Schuster's back healthy.
had a couple good catches in that game too.
Yeah, and you have him and Isaiah Worthy looked. I mean, Xavier Worthy looked pretty good. There was, he was involved in the passing game a lot more. I think
Mhm.
there was a big play to Worthy that was slightly out of bounds. Mahomes didn't make a great throw on
Yeah,
that. Could have been another big touchdown play. So it seems like they're getting close. Mahomes didn't make any boneheaded kind of interception worthy plays this game, which was nice. He's
right.
kind of off, I think, but this was probably maybe one of his more consistent games. So, and Hunt had some good runs. You think, well, with Hunt and Pacheco in the backfield together, that can be a pretty strong team. Samaje Perine looked really good. He had a good kickoff return and some big runs and catches as well. So,
Yeah, that one catch relatively late that was big too, right? The
yeah,
in good position. Yeah,
yeah. I guess you worry a little bit about Travis Kelce. He's he's not what he used to be. I think is obvious, but is he saving himself his best for the playoffs like he did last year? You hope. It seems like Hollywood Brown might come back at some point in the not too distant future as well. When we mentioned Pacheco and Amenihue, but we're also, like you said, we're getting more injuries racking up. We have
including another kicker injury.
Kicker,
Is that
yeah,
right?
Spencer Slater, Harrison Bucker's backup plan has already gotten injured, so now they're bringing back Matt Wright, who you might remember from a couple of seasons ago, kicked the longest field goal in Chiefs history. I think that was against the Raiders, actually, on one of those night games, maybe Monday night game in 2022, I think. That was like
Right.
61 yards or something like that, and then Butker had a 62 yarder or something like that to beat the record, but just a couple of months late, just maybe a month later. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's I think that's you worry about the kicking prospects if it's a close game, but you hopefully when you're playing the Raiders, it won't come down to a single kick like it did against Carolina. But you worry about that. You worry about the left tackle, the right tackle, but you have DJ Humphries, uh, who has been signed. Is he going to come in at some point soon? There's still a lot of question marks, I think, around the Chiefs' offense. Their defense, their secondary has been banged up since Jalen Watson went down. The cornerback position has been pretty iffy after McDuffie. Even McDuffie has at times looked not as invincible as usual. I
They
think there's
haven't had
not
much of a pass rush
Yeah, I was
for
gonna say,
several
yeah,
weeks
not much of
either.
a pass
Like,
rush. The linebackers can't seem to cover tight ends very well. Um, so
the run
it's
defense has still been pretty good for the
yeah,
most part, but it was
yeah.
faltered a little bit the last couple of weeks, I guess. They've been like completely locked down early in the season, but yeah, they just seem to be really banged up right now.
Yeah,
Or
you
tired
so
or something. Is it? Yeah, they just
something's
haven't
going on.
clicked quite right. Yeah.
Maybe the addition of a Amenihue as another pass rush and maybe having Josh Uche around a couple more weeks when he gets more used to the system will bolster that pass rush. So it seems like maybe if the pass rush were a little better, the secondary would be a little better. Uh, because they wouldn't have to cover quite as long. But yeah, it's one of those things where I think there is some worry about the Chiefs, but you also think, well, their track record so far has proven that they can turn it on when they need to. And if it's a close game, you still like the Chiefs' chances. Uh, so
Even if they're behind, right?
even if
So
they're
it doesn't.
behind, there's no, yeah, like even when they were behind in Buffalo, he still thought maybe the Chiefs could pull it out. Maybe until that last Mahomes interception. Even you can still think, okay, maybe if we squint the right way, they can pull it out. But
Yeah.
uh, it's yeah, it's as a 10-1 team, you hope they're not like the Eagles who were 10-1 last year and then collapsed because they had a lot of close games and then started losing. They lost like 5 out of 6 to end of the season, I think, and ended up bowing out the playoffs in the first round. So you hope that doesn't happen. I think the Chiefs probably could lose all their next 6 games and still make the playoffs because they have 10 wins, and
Right.
I think
Usually 10 wins
we'll get you
gets
in.
you in, if not a, middling
Mhm.
seed even, not just into the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, it was 10-6 more likely it got you in than 10-7, but now there's an extra playoff spot, so 10-7 is probably all you really
About the
need.
same, sure about the same.
Yeah. Um, so
But it sounds like you're sort of like chalking most of it up to maybe injuries in the defense. Maybe that's just causing enough of the shift to be, putting the Chiefs in the position that they're in right now.
yeah, I think
That's
they miss Jalen Watson. I think also maybe the Snead, of course, now is also hurt in Tennessee, but losing him, I think it really cut into the depth at cornerback, and that is and maybe exposed the safeties a little bit too, as being a little bit of a weak link. So, but we'll see. We'll see that maybe things can turn around. Maybe Spags can figure something out. But but the Chiefs won, so when they're complaining about a victory, that's pretty good.
yeah. I mean, and they did put up 30 points this week, though. That's nice to
Yeah.
see. There's a highest point total this season, wasn't it?
I think they had 30 as well against Tampa, but that included overtime. So this is their highest in
Regular season.
regulation that they scored.
Yeah.
So 30-27. The Chiefs scored more points than we did over the weekend in terms of um, our locks of the week were anything but, and then our big board was also something, especially for on my side, that turned out to be terrible. I don't know how much we want to discuss our locks that were unlocked. Uh, they were, poorly. Uh, it was basically a poorly one of those little lift gates that was left up. The little what do you call that? The little fork that kind of goes on either side of
Yeah. Well, it's like a latch. It's like a latch,
the
right? But
latch. Yeah, the
it
latch
was
was
left up,
definitely
and then it was padlocked, but it was open when it was padlocked, so it could not
yeah,
be closed at all. Something like
where the
that.
key was left in the lock. So
Yeah, not so great this week, Mike.
or it was the briefcase lock that wasn't the numbers weren't turned, so you could just open it by pulling the two buttons apart. Yeah, this was not very good.
Absolutely.
It started
No.
out it started out poorly on the first game of the week, and that was Pittsburgh at Cleveland. Pittsburgh was 3.5 point favorites on the road in Cleveland, and Pittsburgh has been playing very well for me as a better recently, and Cleveland hadn't been playing so well. But I think there was it was a snowy game. I think that kind of changed things. It was a short week. It was a division game. Maybe I shouldn't have. Uh, in hindsight, definitely I shouldn't have gone with the bet, but I didn't do very well in any of my games this week, so it wasn't like I just picked the wrong ones as locks. I did poorly all across the board, but Pittsburgh not only didn't cover, but they lost outright, 24-19 against Cleveland. It was an entertaining game to watch, though, but it was against Jameis Winston and Cleveland, and they pulled it out. And it's one of those things. I think you can kind of throw out the records in a lot of those division games, and they'll just be tough matchups. So
It was really set up for you to win. Like Pittsburgh was up by a point, got the ball back after an interception, about 4 minutes to go. And he thought, oh, well, that's 4.5 minutes to go. They're gonna, drive slowly
field goal. Yeah.
for 50 yards or something, kick a field goal, and end the game with a 4 point victory. That's what I assumed was going to happen. I saw it because I saw I was at music trivia that night, So I popped in on my phone to see what the score was. Saw
Yeah,
that was the scenario. I was like, well, Mike's gonna get this one.
yeah,
Uh, they got 4.5 minutes to just bleed the clock out and kick a field goal and end the game. But well, yeah, they had like a 15-yard punt in there even, which is
yeah.
is not you wouldn't expect that though. And then yeah, then Cleveland drove got a touchdown to sink you there. I was shocked though. 4.5 minutes and the ball. That's like a Pittsburgh special right there for
Yeah, it was
closing out and winning a game, covering the spread at the same time. I was shocked even to see that at all.
it was not to be.
Yeah. No,
So
I thought you had it when I saw that scenario. So that's yeah, unfortunate.
yeah, yeah. How about you at least had one victory on the week. Do you want to talk about that first, or do you want to go with your
Sure, you can do that, yeah. I had Miami favored by 7 points at home against New England, and that game went pretty much according to what was expected, I suppose. Let's see, Miami ended up winning 34-15, yeah, easily covering that spread. I actually didn't follow that game at all, Mike. Did you have any thoughts on that game? Did you watch any of that one?
No, I didn't watch it. I did see that Gardner Minshew got injured. It seemed like Tua and the Dolphins are playing pretty well. I believe it was fairly close. It was a fairly low scoring game. Like I remember in terms of over unders, I think it was fairly low scoring at halftime, and then quite a few points were scored at the end to push it over. Much like the strange Washington Dallas game as well. But I think it
Yeah.
was I have to look see what.
Yeah, Miami never scored 24 points in the second quarter in that game. That's pretty crazy. Anyway,
Yeah.
A-Chain had a couple of touchdowns.
Oh, I was thinking the Raider. I was thinking it was the Miami
Yeah, it wasn't the Raiders.
Raiders game.
It
It
was
was the Patriots. I
Patriots.
was Patriots. I was thinking it was Broncos Miami played the Raiders last week.
Yeah,
That
maybe
was what
that's
I
it.
was
Yeah,
thinking. Yeah, it was um the Patriots. I don't know why I said Minshew. Maybe I was thinking
yeah,
of
that's what I wasn't sure either, but that's
maybe I was
right.
thinking of Drake May.
It was
Um
the Raiders the week before, week
okay.
11, and
Yeah,
it was almost the same score.
34-15. Yeah, I think it might have been
It was 34-19 against the Raiders.
Raiders. Yeah.
So
So
yeah, it's almost the same score 2 weeks in a row. Yeah,
yeah, I guess I just confused those two games. So obviously I didn't watch it, so that's why I confused it. Uh,
yeah,
it was on, Miami is now I guess almost played themselves into a near playoff spot if Denver maybe falters or if the Chargers falter. I think those are the two weakest playoff teams probably at this point. Um, because you might say the Texans are really the weakest playoff team, but the way they've been playing, but they're still in their AFC South division. Somebody has to come out of the AFC South, and I,
right.
theoretically, I guess it could be Indianapolis, but
Yeah,
um,
Miami's in the 8th spot right now in the AFC.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. So they're 5-6. You could see them. They do have a tough game against Green Bay this week, but then they play the Jets at the Texans. Should be a big game. The
but if the
first,
Texans are playing like they're playing right now, then
yeah.
it's winnable.
And then they're playing the 49ers. Again, the way the 49ers are playing right now haven't been so good. Browns, and they play the Jets twice, the Browns. So possibly, you could say if they run the table, if they finish 11-6, they'll make the playoffs most likely.
Oh yeah,
So, but you think they would at least have to go probably 5-1, I would say,
yeah,
to have a good shot. And
yeah.
uh,
Especially since the Broncos and Chargers, who are ahead of them, are going to be playing division rivals
Mhm.
and each other probably too, right? So one of those teams is likely to drop a bit.
Yeah, but they're also two games and two at least they're both two wins ahead of the Dolphins at this point. So
Because the Broncos and Chargers will play each other, and I think they each have the Chiefs left on their schedules. So
yeah,
right.
the Broncos and
So
the Chargers each the Broncos will get the Chiefs at home. The Chargers will play at Kansas City.
so in theory, if the Chiefs win each of those games, and then one of those teams has to win against the other Broncos and Chargers. So
Yeah.
one of those teams is taking two losses
Hmm.
just right there,
Yeah.
which is enough for Miami to
Sneak in
sneak in.
there.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah. Without going too deep into the schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
So how
speaking
about
of
your yeah, what was your second pick of the week,
My
Mike?
second pick was Arizona plus 1.5 at Seattle. I heard the way Arizona's been playing really well. Again, I still don't think Seattle's a very good team, but they've managed to pull off some victories. Quite a few victories in a row. They're leading the NFC West now. They won that game 16-6. It was There was, I believe, a pick six in that game that kind of turned things around for Seattle. Neither of the offenses played that well, or maybe you can say that both defenses played very well. But the other Kobe Bryant had a pick six for the Seahawks. Koby Bryant. Had you heard of Kobe Bryant? That Kobe Bryant?
I did not know there was another Kobe Bryant.
Yes. Um, and it was the first. It was the Seahawks were the first team in 3 weeks to score a touchdown against the Cardinals. So the Cardinals defense have been playing really well. He was on the road in Seattle. Yeah, they ran into this tough Seattle defense, I guess, and just couldn't do much. So, I don't know. It just wasn't my day.
Yeah, that's a tough one though. 16-6 is kind of an odd score, but yeah, it seems strange that neither team was able to score that much. And it wasn't a snowy game like the Pittsburgh Cleveland game.
Yeah,
So like 16-6 seems like a strange score.
there have been 34 16-6 games in NFL history. The first such 16-6 game was the Hartford Blues winning against the Brooklyn Lions in 1926.
Had you
I
heard of either of those
I
teams?
had not heard of either of those teams. I was just going to ask you that.
No.
Uh,
No. Hmm. Yeah, that's a really strange game though.
the second
16-6.
16-6 games, I'm sure you have heard of those teams. That was the Green Bay Packers over the Chicago Bears.
Hmm.
Only two
Never heard of
years.
them.
Yeah. Um, and there were no 16-6 games at all between 1929 and 1964. That's a long gap to have. You had three 16-6 games within the late 1920s, and then none all the way to 1964. And then it had been it had been 4 years ago. It had been 4 years, a little bit over 4 years since the last 16-6 game, and that was the Seahawks. I mean, that was the Raiders at the Cleveland Browns in the COVID year, 2020.
And that was that famous eight safety game,
We wish eight on one
16.
side, three on the other.
Obviously.
Yeah.
It's the most practical way to get to 16 points.
The Chiefs have been involved in exactly one of those 16-6 games, losing in 2008 to the Bengals 16-6. I don't remember that game, but
Hmm.
sure I watched it or paid attention during it. But
Probably.
2008 Kansas City Chiefs. Ooh, that was a 2-14 Herm Edwards season.
Ooh, yeah. It's not good.
Not good.
Mm, mm.
Well, we know
Also
less.
not good was my second pick. Where I had Houston covering their 8.5 point spread against Tennessee at home in Houston. And not only did they not cover the spread, Mike, they lost the game 32-27 to an anemic offense, giving up 32 points somehow. Houston only managed 40 yards on the ground in the entire game. Had a couple of turnovers. Stroud threw 2 picks. And that's with Nico Collins back too, which is
And I think they had
probably
a
concerning then, right? For Houston.
and I think they had a pick six against Mayo spokesman Will Levis even.
Gross. Yeah. Not good, Mike.
So yeah, not the best game.
Yeah.
Are you hearing me or is my connection bad?
It froze a bit for like a brief moment and now it's
Okay.
back now though.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Technical difficulties here at the Werman residence right now. But yeah, it was not a good game for the Texans at all. So yeah, speaking of not a good game, was my third pick, which was probably my worst pick of the season so far. I would
Uh,
say, um,
maybe not your fault though, Mike.
maybe not my fault, but I had thought it was the 49ers at the Green Bay Packers, Lambeau Field. They were 2.5 point underdogs when I made the bet. That was also when we thought that Brock Purdy was still going to play. He ended up not playing and being announced as he was not going to play a couple of days after we made that pick. And then I think it ended up being 5.5 points Green Bay was favored by. But I still thought maybe Brandon Allen and the 49ers can still keep it close because they're a tough team. They beat the Packers last year in the playoffs. They seem to have the Packers number usually. Not this time. They lost. They were thumped 38 to 10. They lost by 4 touchdowns to the Packers. And now the 49ers are reeling and looking like maybe they won't make the playoffs. They have Buffalo this week coming up, so they really need a win, I think, to stay alive. Fortunately, I guess the NFC West is pretty bunched together, but still, if you're the 49ers, you're one of the elite teams usually of the league the last several years. So maybe not even making the playoffs, that would be a huge blow. But maybe it's the Super Bowl losers hangover that sometimes
That is
occurs.
the thing. That is the thing.
But
But
this
at
is
5-6, we're still only one game out of the division
yeah,
lead, so it's not impossible. But there's still 6 games left.
yeah. But this was yeah. But I was 0-3 this week. They were all bad. None of them were particularly close on my end the way it ended up. So yeah. How about your third pick of the week? Where you also, I believe you also lost, but at least you had the one victory this week.
I did, yeah. My third pick was close, but not close enough. I took an over the game with Tampa Bay at the New York Giants. Uh, I thought maybe with Tommy DeVito starting, that the Giants would score at least a little bit, few points, maybe more than one touchdown. Hopefully 2 touchdowns. And that would have been enough. That would have a second touchdown. That would have been enough for me to grab the over there. But Tampa Bay ended up winning 30-7. Baker Mayfield played a pretty decent game. It's 24-30, 294 yards in the game. But all the touchdowns were on the ground. They're weren't enough though. Like 30-17, so we fell about what, 4.5 points short.
Yeah,
I
30 to
needed one
7.
more touchdown and didn't wasn't able to get it. So
No, it was the Giants really just played like a defeated team. I think a lot of them were deflated by the release of Andrew Jones, not Andrew Jones, Daniel Jones, not the former Braves center fielder, but the
yes,
Daniel Jones has gotten his release. He outright release, a little bit like you know what happened with Derek Carr and Russell Wilson the last few years, where the starting quarterback becomes the third string quarterback, becomes expendable very quickly because of money
yeah,
concerns. And I think a lot of the Giants thought, well, at least we were trying to win games when we had Daniel Jones playing, but now you're not even trying to play Drew Lock, who was the backup quarterback you signed in, but you're bringing in Tommy DeVito, who is the number three quarterback for a reason, you would think.
yeah.
Uh, so I don't know what's going on in Giants country right now. So it's yeah, it was a pretty bad beat at home. I think the Giants are 0 and 6 at home this season as well. So I don't
Pretty crazy.
only one on the road.
Yeah, and now that the Giants look really terrible though. They failed to sign Saquon Barkley, let him go to the Eagles where he is playing very well, and elected to keep Daniel Jones, and now he's also gone. So it seems like they were wrong multiple times on the same decision, right?
Yeah.
So great, but you probably enjoy at least a little bit watching the New York teams struggle, though, don't
Yeah, I
you?
don't mind. I especially like watching the Jets struggle. The Giants I have less antipathy toward, but
Yeah,
it's been a rough year in I guess New York, New Jersey area, and upstate New York,
yes,
the Buffalo's been pretty good. So,
right.
um, yeah. Any other? So I was 0 and 3. You were 1 and 2. So where does that leave our locks of the week this week? I think I'm still up on the year, but I'm not as up as I once was. I'm
Right. Yeah, so
20.
you're 20-16 now, plus $400 on the season. I'm an even 17 and 2 now with my 1 and 2 week. So you're up $400 on me on the season so far. Not quite
And,
in striking range. I can't
no,
tie you up in 1 week, but get close.
but
Get
you are
closer.
ahead now in the
Oh,
overall betting competition, where I had a woeful week, losing um,
yeah, not because I had a good week, Mike.
losing $600, $1,600, about almost 1,600. You lost almost $500, but now I am over $1,300 down on the season, and you are just over 600, about $650 down on the season. So my I lost over $1,000 more than you did, and that really changed things. That was because I didn't get really any over unders or picks on the spread correct. I was only 7 out of 26 in those main two categories. I did a little better on the money line, but I didn't pick any of the upsets that happened, and so I still lost money on the money line as well. But it wasn't
Mm.
as bad as the over unders and the spreads. So I mentioned on the show last week, I wasn't sure what to pick because I didn't feel so good about any of the lines. So maybe I should have just pulled a Costanza and gone against my pick every time, and then I would have done really well. But I
That's what I am on the over unders in the last several weeks. I've been just terrible at the over unders. So maybe I should do that this week. Just go the opposite of what I think it's going to be. I was only 4 of 13. You went with a blanket under. Only got three
yeah.
unders. It was heavily over for the league this week. So
I
with
think
knowing that it was so heavily over this week, do you think next week is gonna flip back?
I'm hoping the pendulum swings back. I'm still going to do all under because I believe if I had done like you did, I wouldn't have done much better, if at all better.
No.
So
And I was
I
only one better than you
if I
were
had picked
by.
every game individually, I still
Yeah.
think I probably would have done poorly. So I'm gonna do a blanket under again just to try it. And hopefully this week things will be a little lower scoring. Maybe the weather's getting a little colder. The ball is a little more slippery, slippy, as they say in this part of the country. Do they say? I don't think I ever heard the word slippy until I moved to this part of the country. They say it in Pittsburgh a lot. Have you ever heard the term slippy for slippery?
I, I've heard it, but only like in television. I've never heard an actual human speak that well. Slippery I've heard many
Yeah,
times, but not slippy.
yeah,
No, not in person.
not in person. I believe I first time I remember hearing that word was watching the movie Wonder Boys, which was set in Pittsburgh and filmed in Pittsburgh. And Frances McDormand's character, she says "slippy," which makes it a good Pittsburgh because it's a Pittsburghism.
Yes.
Yinzer speak, as they say. Have you heard much Yinzer talk? Do you know the Yinzer language dialect?
I'm aware that it exists. I wouldn't say I'm familiar with it. So you don't hear a lot of that in the Kansas City area.
You don't get yins going outside, yeah, instead
Yeah,
of you all or you guys.
yeah. Or even Ewans, but
Yins.
you might hear in like the Ozark area or something like that,
Yeah.
right? Ewans, but not Yins.
Yins.
Yeah, even shorter.
In some parts, you get use going outside. Use guys. You get some of that in Pennsylvania too, in the Philly side.
Or the Philly area, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But it's yeah, interesting state. And I think it's a little more yins because yins is Appalachian too a bit. So Pittsburgh is the just like Kansas City is the Paris of the Plains. Pittsburgh is the Paris of Appalachia. So there's some similarities there, but um, maybe we'll talk a little more about Pittsburgh when we talk about my locks of the week because I'm not going to shy away from Pittsburgh just because I lost this past week betting on them. But before we go to next week's games, do you want to talk about the Royals briefly? I know you have some strong feelings about this Royals trade. The Royals traded former first round pick and starting rotation stalwart for the last several years now, Brady Singer, who was a very good pitcher this year. He was probably the Royals' third or fourth. Well, the Royals had four good starting pitchers this year, and Singer was one of them. ERA in the threes, potential All-Star almost.
Yeah.
And they traded him for former Rookie of the Year in Cincinnati, Jonathan India, also for was it Brett Wiemer? Is that his name? Or was it
Um, Joey?
jo Joey Wiemer? Joey Wiemer. Yeah, why did it say? I don't know why I thought of Brett Wiemer, but
Yeah, Joey. Yeah.
Joey Wiemer. Joseph Darrell Wiemer is his name. Um, like so they got a Jonathan, a John, and a Joe. So maybe they're going for older school names. Then they have a Vinny and a Bobby. Maybe they don't want I mean, Brady's not that trendy, but it's
Yeah.
not as old as Sal, uh, Vinny,
Right.
Bobby, names like that.
Yes. That's what they're going.
That's what they're going for.
That's their aim. But it
I
is
think
the Jonathan, your preferred spelling of Jonathan, though. Is that correct?
yes, it is. It's the correct spelling. The John Joe
Joe Nathan.
Joe Nathan. Yeah, not the toilet race around the world.
John Athala. Yes.
Yeah,
Joe Nathan. Yes.
yes.
Yes. Your explanation of that has stuck in my brain somewhere. Whenever I see or hear the name Jonathan, I always ask which one it is, which spelling it is, and then I just so I know if it's Joe Nathan or the toilet rates around the world. Jonathan. Where did you get that? Did you just come up with that on your own, or was that
I
from
came up.
something?
It was pure Werman. It was something I came up with.
It's funny. It's
the
funny. It has stuck around it rattled around in my brain for decades now. So
I'm
thanks.
glad
Thanks,
it's
Mike.
stuck in your head. Maybe it'll stick in our viewers and listeners' heads now. But yeah, Joey Wiemer, he's kind of a he's getting on the older side of prospect world. He's 26 years old, or he'll be 26 when the season starts. He's only had about 400 major league at bats. He hasn't been great, but he's still young. Jonathan India is a solid on base as a solid on base percentage. He would be, he's over 350 most years on the on base department. He has some power, but you wonder how much of that power came from playing in Cincinnati rather than playing in a large stadium like Kauffman Stadium. But maybe if the Royals get a new stadium, maybe their new stadium will be a bandbox similar. But that's still probably 2 or 3 years away, isn't it? At least
The
with
least at least 5 years away, I think, anyway, right? So it'd be surprising if either of these players are still
still
with the
around even.
franchise
But
by the time that the new stadium is even open. I think the lease with the current stadium runs to the 2030 season,
okay.
I believe. So they've talked about having the stadium open earlier, but they still have yet to select a site, so it's unlikely that they would be able to have a stadium open for 2028, maybe even at this point. So I think it takes usually 2 years to build after they, decided on everything out. I mean, they're not anywhere close to that now. So they're, I'd be thinking, yeah, 2030 is probably their target right now. So yeah, if either of those guys were still on the Royals roster 2030, I'll be a little surprised. I don't know why they're on the roster right now, even necessarily, because this trade doesn't make any sense at all, Mike. No sense, Mike. It makes no sense. It's like the Royals finally had pitching depth at the starting pitching position for like the first time since maybe the 1980s even. And when they actually had at least a couple of guys, not just like one starter, which is how they've been for the last decade or so. But they finally have depth there. They trade away a player for position players that they already have players at those positions. So they're just creating more platoon scenarios for guys that they should not be platooning for, like Michael Massey and Kyle Isbell. So to me, this trade is not just questionable. It's seemingly terrible before they even play their first games in Kansas City. I don't like this deal at all. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't. I've always said this, but with the Royals franchise for the last several years, going back a while actually, but they do not know what they are doing, like at all. They have no idea what they're doing. This is ridiculous. I think these players are weaker than the players they already have at the positions, and they've just created a competition for things they don't need to create competitions for. Why? Why are we doing this? Why, Mike? Why?
Um, well, I guess I'm not thrilled by the trade. Also not as against the trade as you are. I don't know. I'm still kind of in a wait and see kind of mode. I think they did give up something that was of a strength of theirs, and they trying to bolster a weakness of theirs. I guess the one thing is how much pitching do they have behind Singer? Maybe you think Marsh could play a bigger role next year and stay healthy. If Bubic can come back as a starter, maybe there's something there. Maybe the Royals will go out and get another starting pitcher like they did
Yeah.
Lugo and Waka last year. Is Lugo still a free agent?
I think Lugo's still on the roster.
He's going to be on the roster next year? Okay,
Yeah. And
they
Waka
signed
they
Waka
signed,
long
so
term.
I think it's Daniel Lynch is probably the other guy that's, the other potential starter that they have. So,
So I think there's still
they have some depth,
potential.
but they also have injury histories at those
Yeah.
positions. So,
Yeah, Singer, it seems like he's finally come to his own. But maybe Singer, but Singer, he only throws two pitches basically, which isn't a lot for us. He's just good for a reliever, not as good for a starter traditionally. And you wonder maybe you can just like maybe Jonathan India was helped in his small ballpark, was Singer helped in the larger ballpark of Kauffman Stadium. So maybe they're both going to be worse than they were this past year. Maybe it's a negative for both teams. Um, Wiemer, I think maybe can play some center field if he can hit. He's a big guy, um, so maybe he's
He's a
got some.
regular sized guy, Mike. I'm
Yeah, he's
adamant in
calf
this. He is a
size,
regular sized person.
calf size, 6'4", 6'5", something like that. And but maybe he can develop some power. Um, I don't know. I'm just I I would be skeptical, but the Royals did exceed expectations last year. Maybe it was just a fluke. I think we'll find out if it was just a fluke or not. But yeah, I think the jury's still out on this one. I know uh you're very much against it though.
Well, it's just because you traded away an asset that you finally had depth at starting pitching. Now you don't have depth at starting pitching. You have a bunch of injured guys that maybe together can cobble together a fifth spot in the rotation. But you also created competition at two positions that they don't need competing players in. Like it may be that they come out of spring training and maybe neither of them are even starters. So what have you done
Mhm.
then? Or you've taken away from games that Massey and Isbell should be playing for
Or
players that are
Garcia,
no
maybe.
better than Massey and Isbell. So it just doesn't make sense to create competitions in positions that you don't need. You're not getting someone that's better now. Now I know we've talked about this, and you have more hope than I had, at least anyway. We talked about actually going out and getting free agents, and I know you like the possibility of the Royals picking up Juan Soto. Now, see,
Yes.
like if you can get a Juan Soto, you create a competition at a position that's not creating a competition. That person is going to be starting in a position, right?
Juan Soto
You
plays right
find a
field.
guy like that, then it makes sense. But this
He,
doesn't make sense
he would
at
ask
all.
who played right field most for the Royals last year?
Renfro.
Renfro, I guess. He
And
would
then
say,
when he was hurt, then they had some other guys sort of filled in.
yeah, it was kind of a revolving door in right field.
Yeah, it was
One
mostly
doesn't.
Renfro and then some other guys. Yeah.
But Juan Soto would be the Gerald Strawberry in this situation, and Hunter Renfroe would be the Homer Simpson. So you're Juan Soto. You play right field. I play right field. Are you better than me? And then Juan Soto would say, "Well, I've never met you, but yes." And so I would enjoy that possible exchange if it were to happen, but I don't think it will, and I don't think Soto's
They should
going
absolutely
to.
recreate that scene thing if that would be the
Second
case.
straight week I've gone through that theme, uh, on the Morning Trek Power Hour, but
But
uh,
during this last week, there actually was an article showing that the Royals had expressed interest in Soto and possibly reached out to him, though. So that's maybe the second time we've been able to say that a possible signing of Juan Soto isn't impossible.
no, not impossible.
Are
But
you willing this into existence, Mike? That's
well,
my question.
I hope I'm sure the top brass of the Royals listen to the Morning Trek Power Hour on a weekly basis, but and so if they are listening, I would encourage them to at least kick the tires on a Juan Soto deal. 10 years. you know, $500 million, maybe that'll do it. And you get to play. We'd have two of the best position players in the league that way with Bobby Wood Jr. and Juan Soto, both young guys, be able to carry the team forward. I highly doubt that they're going to get Juan Soto, however, but you can always dream in the hot stove season.
Now, if they did sign Soto to a 10-year deal, that would be very likely that Witt and Soto would be on the team when they moved to the new stadium, wherever it may be.
Yeah, he'd be. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I, I've. Yeah, he's they're two of the greatest hitters in the league right now. Other maybe two of the top four might put Judge and Ohtani uh, in that top four as well, but that's
Yeah.
maybe at least two of the top, maybe five, yeah, bat players in the league or something like that, but position players. So it's a pipe dream, but it's interesting. Um, speaking of uh pipe dreams, will our picks be better next week than they are this week in the NFL?
Like they can only be slightly worse than they were last week. So I'm gonna go, yeah, better
Okay.
this week.
Well, we do have another Chiefs game coming up as well. They're playing the Raiders. Are you making a bet on the Chiefs Raiders? Chiefs are favored by 12.5 points at home against the Raiders. Do you think they cover that, or do you think the Raiders will cover or even have a chance to upset the Chiefs at home like they did last year on Christmas Day?
It did
Um,
happen 1 year ago. So I yeah, the what Minshew is injured, so we're gonna be seeing the O'Connell,
or maybe
right?
it's
Will be
might be Desmond Ritter as well, who they
well,
brought in.
is he expected to start though? I hadn't heard that, I guess so.
I thought it might be
Or is it
Desmond
a
Ritter. That's why
okay? Yeah, I just assumed it was gonna be O'Connell, but
Falcons cast off. Let's see, O'Connell or Riddle. Raiders undecided on this week's starting quarterback, so they're
okay.
uh,
I don't know there's that much of a difference between the two quarterbacks though. Uh but that spread is so huge though. That's what I'm surprised that the Vegas odds makers were giving the Chiefs that much credit that they were expecting the Chiefs to win by essentially two touchdowns, which they haven't really done against
mhm.
anybody all season. So the last couple of weeks I've been picking the Chiefs to win, but not to cover the spreads on our big board, but I haven't made them locks recently. Um, I kind of expect that to happen again this week. I think it'll be a little bit closer than the spread is at least, but I expect the Chiefs to win. Are you thinking the same thing, or do you have different opinions on this game?
I'm kind of wondering why the spread is so big, and that makes me think: are the Chiefs? Because this is one of the times I think I think we mentioned this before we went on the air, but Patrick Mahomes made some comments recently that he was tired of all these close games. He wanted a blowout here and there. So maybe this is where they get it. So the Chiefs have blown out the Raiders before with Mahomes playing. So
Hmm.
this could, this could be a 30-7 type of game, possibly. But I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I kind of just the homer in me wants to bet on the Chiefs and hope they cover, but I also think that's unlikely that they cover a 12.5 point spread, but when it's usually when the spreads are that big though, it's not like the teams do often cover those because there's a reason those spreads are that big. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
undecided. I will pick the Chiefs to win on the money line, and I will
Yes.
under in the over under, which I believe is um what is the over under? 42.5 points. So um, that seems a
So
little,
that's not very high. So
yeah.
they're expecting a defensive game, or at least not a big outburst from the Raiders.
Yeah. A 28-14 game would be ideal, and it would stay under. It would also cover, and the Chiefs would win. It would also make sure that the Chiefs don't rely too much on their kicker, Matt Wright. Now, who's again maybe kickers are in some ways interchangeable in the NFL, although maybe outside of Butker is one of the rare few that is maybe a notch above the average kicker. So, but
Yeah.
I don't I don't know. I don't know who's going to win that game. I know I think the Chiefs are going to win the game, but I don't know what the spread is going to be in that game. So I I'm steering clear of that for my locks of the week. My first lock,
Well, we did hear that there was some good news though, right? It was Charles and Menahue and Isaiah
yes,
Pacheco were full participants in practice, so
they
it
were.
sounds like they're trending towards being able to play this week.
Mhm.
I know, Kareem Hunt's been playing really well for the Chiefs at the running back position. So do you think Pacheco's going to get a lot of playing time, or do you go just like kind of mix them in a little bit?
I think
What do you
they'll
expect to see
probably
from him?
ease him back in, I would say. Because Hunt's doing well. But I think also you want to caution, you don't want to break Hunt, have Hunt break down either, because he's been taking a lot of beatings in these last few weeks.
Yeah,
So if you can kind of balance their load, that would be ideal. So yeah, maybe lighten Hunt's load a little bit and while easing Pacheco back in, maybe giving each of them 10 to 12 carries rather than um, the 20 plus that Hunt has been getting mostly. Something like maybe that would be the way to go.
he's still getting maybe P Ryan in on some like third down plays, stuff like
Yeah,
that. Right?
yeah.
Makes
Um,
sense. But a mini heel on defense, though, that should be interesting, though, shouldn't it? To see how he works back in.
yeah, see how he works back in. Also see maybe the pass rush looks better with him because it looked really good with him in last season.
Yeah,
Maybe a Menahue helps free up Chris Jones to do a little bit more, helps free up Carl Aftis to get some more sacks. Mike
he's been
Dana,
pretty quiet the last several weeks too.
yeah.
I'll have to
Also
say,
maybe
and Jones.
see how Josh Uche does coming in. So yeah, I think adding that one extra guy uh, could be big.
Yeah, hopefully that's some of the difference in how these games have been being played the last several weeks. So sometimes it doesn't. It's just like one defensive play, a stop here or there that like shuts a drive down that gives the Chiefs the ball back.
Mhm.
Maybe that's all. Really the difference is between close games and closer to a blowout, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes it's just a one stop.
that's
No.
right. Um, yeah, let's talk about our locks of the week, I suppose. Um, there are three Day games and one Black Friday game, which is the Chiefs, and the other games are all Sunday or Monday as usual. But four early week games, so that adds a little bit more chaos. And we have the Thanksgiving holiday, which is traditionally the football holiday. I'm making one pick for a Thanksgiving Day game. Um, I believe you are as well. So
Right?
let's do our Thanksgiving picks first, and then go through our later in the week picks. Um, this is a pick that I'm basically making not because I trust one team, but it's because I think one team is really tanking more than the other team is right now, and that's Dallas, the New York Giants at Dallas, the 3:30 p.m. Arrowhead time uh, game. Uh, Dallas is favored by only 3.5 points at home. Dallas had the big victory against Washington last week. The Giants kind of rolled over and played dead against Tampa Bay. So I'm thinking maybe that same thing will happen again. Giants on the road have been better than the Giants at home, though. But I think the Cowboys at home on Thanksgiving aren't going to lose to the Giants. So it's 3.5. They're only favored by 3.5. So I think the Giants win. Giants lose by more than a touchdown. So I think the Cowboys by as minus 3.5 point favorites is the side to go on. So that's my first lock.
I think Dallas may be one of those teams that hasn't won at home yet this season, too. Yeah, they're 0-5 at home, which is shocking, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that is shocking. You don't think that can be sustainable the whole season?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is the matchup to at least project a win, I think, right?
Yeah, to
Against
to
a team
right the
that's
ship,
even
I think.
that's
Yeah,
even worse. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I think if Dallas loses this game at home on Thanksgiving, that's going to be uh they'll make the fans pretty irate.
As would be Jerry Jones likely, and
Hmm.
maybe the whole team would get fired or something like that, right? We just wouldn't play the rest of the season.
Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah. Just cancel it.
No, that seems reasonable. Giants have been, yeah, so lifeless that I don't know how they're going to bounce back from where they seem to be right now. So it seemed like a pretty easy pick, honestly. Like even though Dallas has struggled pretty
Yeah.
much. all season. But Cooper Rush did have a better game last week against Washington, so if he plays similarly against the Giants, that should be more than that. The expectation, I would think. Um, yeah, my first pick is going to be in the earlier game on Thanksgiving Day. I'm going to take Detroit. It's favored by 10.5 points, which is again a bigger spread than I tend to like to go with. But it is against they aren't home against the Chicago Bears, who have been playing terribly well. But the Lions seem to like to really blow teams out, and this seems like one of those games that sort of primed for running at the score. So yeah, Detroit minus 10.5 at home is my first lock of the week.
Yeah, yeah, like you said, the Lions tend to really run the score up a lot, and I think the Bears, despite playing better against Minnesota, are still somewhat, like you said, they're struggling. I think, yeah, I think the way Detroit has been playing, and they want to, they're the traditional, along with Dallas, the traditional hosts on Thanksgiving. They're got, that's a big day for them. So yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that pick either. So yeah, I might lean that way as well. If I had to go, that's still a very big spread. So I don't like those big spreads to bet on. But I
Yeah,
do the way Detroit's been manhandling these other teams lately, especially teams that aren't that great, uh, is something in their favor. But also, you could say this is a division game, so maybe things are a little bit closer than they might otherwise be. But um, yeah, I don't think that's a bad pick at all.
that other Thanksgiving Day game, the evening game, is a little bit tougher to predict. I think you have
Mhm.
Miami at Green Bay. I like the matchup, but I don't really like the line. I guess I don't know how to pick this game yet. So I'm shying away from this. I guess you are too from the locks anyway. Green Bay's favored by 3.5. Miami's been playing pretty well. Last 4 weeks have been scoring in the 30s. Green Bay did win a big game last week too. So what just it's not either of our locks of the week. What do you think's going to happen in this one?
Um,
You think it's going to be a high scoring game?
I I think it's gonna be. I'm picking it as a low. I'm gonna pick it as an under.
Oh
47 and a
you're
half.
going all under. So yeah.
So I I think I can see Miami pulling it out because I think if the weather is not too cold, if it depends on what the weather is. I think if it's a cold weather game,
Mhm.
Miami doesn't really have a shot because I don't think Tua is great in the cold weather. But
It's a good
it's
thinking.
still November. It's not yet December in Green Bay, and with global warming and things like that, it might not be quite as cold. But of course, the Chiefs played in sub-zero conditions last year in January. So Green Bay could get, easily get cold. I don't know what the weather's going to be like in Green Bay on Sunday. Have you checked the forecast?
It
I'm
looks
thinking,
like high of 28, no precipitation expected.
ooh, I have 28, so that's low temperatures. So I might go Green Bay then.
So maybe now you're shifting back to Green Bay.
Yeah, since it's below freezing and it's
Yeah.
at night, and it'll be at night
Yeah, so it will be cold, getting colder,
in the
not getting
20s. Yeah, yeah.
warm.
I might go with Green Bay then, just because the weather forecast. I don't, I don't know how, I don't think Tyreek Hill is that affected by the cold, but he's played well in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I think
Tua has not had too many opportunities to
uh,
play in cold weather scenarios, so has he?
I think he is 0 and something in games below freezing though. So uh,
Yeah.
this this is definitely a game that you would think, okay, Green Bay is going to have the advantage in terms of the weather. So that might. So what is Green Bay favored by? 3.5. Yeah, maybe I'd go with Green Bay right now.
Tua is 0-7 in games played at temperatures below 40 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So that seems like a good indicator, right? So
Yeah,
that's over, not like, something and something where it's like, oh,
yeah,
odds are in this favor. Well, that's 0-7, like
yeah. Well, one of my, I guess maybe that works in my favor as well. In my second pick, It's going to be Indianapolis traveling to New England. Indianapolis is of course a cold weather city, but the team does not play in cold weather. They play in the dome there, but they're going to New England. They're actually 2.5 point favorites on the road. I'm not sure if Indianapolis should be favored on the road against anybody. I know New England has struggled, but I like New England at home to actually win outright probably and beat Indianapolis. And New England's been surprisingly frisky, I think, at times, and they've beaten they've beaten Cincinnati, they've beaten um, the Jets, I believe. They've won some games. They're not great, but I don't think Indianapolis is great. And I think maybe you could say Anthony Richardson was back to his old self last week. He was like 10 of 20 something passing or something. He didn't have a good week against Detroit, so maybe against New England he'll have another bad week. And he's another warm weather quarterback from Florida um, originally. So I like New England to not only cover but to win outright against Indianapolis at home as my second lock of the week.
Yeah, and Indy's played a little better, right, since Anthony Richardson's been back.
A little bit, yeah.
Maybe not great, but a little better, maybe. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, New England's pretty good defensively, though. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's one that's hard for me to know what's going to happen. I trust you. We've been doing well on these picks. I may follow you in your reasoning on the big board
On the big board.
this week. Yeah.
How about your second lock of the week, Dr. Scaff?
My second lock of the week. I'm going to Houston. They just, came off of a bad loss to Tennessee, but they have possibly an even weaker opponent this week playing at Jacksonville. Houston is favored by 4.5 points. It does look like Trevor Lawrence may be back for Jackson, but I don't think that's actually enough to make Jacksonville competitive in the game. So I'm going to stick with Houston -4.5 at Jacksonville, my second lock.
Yeah, and Jacksonville's been really bad. Um, it's not like Jacksonville's a great home field environment. It is a division game, so you wonder maybe they can keep it close. Maybe it matters
Yeah,
if Trevor Lawrence is back, but I think also you have Houston that's been playing poorly, wants to have a bounce back game.
yeah,
So maybe this is the place to have it. I don't see anything wrong with that pick. I don't know which way I'd be leaning in that one, but
yeah,
um, I could see Houston wanting to because it's Nico Collins is back maybe longer now. Hopefully he's healthy. If you're the Texans, and yeah, this is something you think. Yeah, the Texans are much at least this you think of at least on paper it seems like they're a much better team than the Jaguars are right now. So
yeah.
I don't I don't think that's a bad pick. The spread, what is it? Is it 4.5 or 5.5?
4.5.
4.5. Um, yeah, this is one of those where I might just wait until we'll see what happens if the line moves one way or the other. Uh,
Yeah.
but I could also see Houston winning 30-3. So
Well, I don't think there's any guarantee that Trevor Lawrence will play
mhm.
too. So if he, it ends up being a late scratch, then that line's probably going to shift
Yeah.
further away. I assume that's already built into, Lawrence playing as why it's as close as it is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see.
Well, we'll see. We'll also see about my third lock of the week. I'm going back to the Pittsburgh well. Pittsburgh is playing at the Bengals, despite being having much better record than Cincinnati so far. The Steelers are 2.5 point underdogs on the road in Cincinnati. They did lose last week on the road to Cleveland, but I think again, I don't think uh, Pittsburgh's going to lose two games in a row in the state of Ohio for some reason. They had they played on Thursday, so they have a long um, preparation period, a 10-day preparation period. Cincinnati's coming off the bye, so they have even longer. But it's not like they have as much of an advantage as a team that's only had 1 week to prepare.
Yeah.
So I think um, I like Pittsburgh, at least to they even get 2.5 points, so even a 1 or 2 point loss will give me a Pittsburgh win. So, but I think Pittsburgh will they beat the Ravens. I think they can beat the Bengals as well. Their defense is still very strong. In Cincinnati, their defense hasn't been as strong as Cleveland's has been. So I think maybe the Steelers will be able to score more points than they could against Cleveland. So I like Pittsburgh on the road plus 2.5 as my third lock of the week.
That's kind of been your bread and butter on the season so far is picking slight underdogs that you expect to win.
Mhm.
It seems like that's your kind of your go-to this season.
That's
Pittsburgh has frequently been in this position, like a
yes,
lot of the times this year.
yeah, that's been it seems like it has been a trend that I've been following. So
Slight underdogs.
that I
Yeah.
think, yeah. I'd say it's
Even a really good record
like New
at
England's a slight underdog. I think is going to win, and I think Pittsburgh. I guess is your third pick of the week going to go that way, or is it you going in some sort of different route on pick number three, lock number
I'm
three?
going straight favorites this week. Not I thought about mixing it up and doing an over under. Um, I do like the Philly Baltimore game as a possible, shootout type game. But they are both sort of, run heavy teams, which sometimes doesn't go well for running up big scores. It doesn't take, just a few really long drives that, maybe end in a turnover or something that derails a chance at a really high scoring game. So over under in that game is 50 and a half. But I'm actually not going to go that way. I thought about that one for quite a while, and I'm not going to. I ended up not making that one of my locks. Anyway, I do think it will be a high scoring game, but I'm not end up making it one of my locks. But I'm going to go to the Monday night game, my third pick. I've been picking in the Monday night games like relatively often the last couple of weeks, anyway. So this week's is Cleveland at Denver.
Mhm.
Denver's been playing pretty well. Cleveland just coming off that win against Pittsburgh, but it was in weird weather conditions. And that seemed like maybe that was why they were able to have a little more success. Was maybe it was just sort of like weather conditions. Um, this game's in Denver, so there's potential weather there too. But Denver's favored 5.5 points. I'm expecting Denver to be able to cover that spread. So I'm gonna take Denver minus 5.5 at home on Monday night.
Yeah, Denver's been playing really well lately. At home, I think it could be another cold weather game, but I don't think Denver's worried about that. I don't think Pittsburgh was really worried about that either, but I do think the snow did affect Pittsburgh's offense is a bit more pass heavy than um, the Browns' offense is. I think this year at least. So maybe that affected them, but I do think I do think the way that Denver's been playing, the altitude, there's always you have an advantage there. I don't dislike that pick either. I could see Denver winning by a touchdown or more at home. They've been playing really well, so I think despite his lack of letters, Bo Nix has been a solid quarterback. He's probably worked himself into the rookie of the year conversation. It seemed like it was going to be Jaden Daniels running away with it, but now maybe you think maybe Bo Nix is rivaling Daniels as the rookie of the year. Maybe even
Yeah.
surpassed him the way the teams have been playing the last few weeks. So um,
Yeah,
yeah,
maybe like Marvin Harrison Jr. was having a pretty good year too, but that's kind of you faded a bit too. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I haven't really looked at.
Maybe
Yeah,
we
are
were
there?
wrong about Bo Nix. We'll see if we're wrong about Bo Nix, but
Yeah. Well, one thing you should do is try to find enough letters to make it
yeah,
you
at
know
least spell
name
it
worthy.
Beauknickks.
There you go. That's enough letters.
Yeah, yeah,
A regular amount of letters for a name.
that's right.
Yes, fair.
I like.
Any other games this week that you're excited for? We've talked about all the Thursday night games, all the Thanksgiving Day games.
Well, you mentioned Philadelphia Baltimore will be a good game. I think the Chargers at Atlanta is a decent game. I don't know who I think I like the Chargers in that one. Um, we mentioned Arizona Minnesota is a decent game. Minnesota's both of them coming aren't playing their best football, or at least Arizona was until last week. Minnesota has been winning, but not winning big. So I think that's a good game too. Those are maybe the two that I see that are the most interesting. Also
That's Sunday night.
Sunday night, San Francisco Buffalo, of course, is a very good.
Yeah.
Maybe those are my
On
top.
paper, that was probably what like, maybe one of the best games of the week, but as of late, yeah, San Francisco's not been playing their best.
No.
So maybe it's, a bit of the luster has come off of that game than maybe what it was expected before the season started.
Yeah, we don't know if Purdy's going to play. We don't know, but it's one of those kind of now or never games. I think for San Francisco, they almost have to get a big victory against Buffalo to really stay in the hunt. Although maybe 9-8 will take that division, but I think if you're San Francisco, you don't want to fall out of especially if Seattle's playing the Jets. You think maybe Seattle's going to win at the Jets. So then if San Francisco lost, they'd be 2 games down, and they wouldn't have a tiebreaker advantage over the Seahawks either. So
Yeah, they don't want to fall 2 games under 500 either. So
uh,
that's a bigger hole to dig out of. Yeah.
yeah,
But that would be great for the Chiefs if San Francisco could pull off
it would really
good
help the
there.
Chiefs seeding chances if Buffalo had another loss to speak just a little bit more room, assuming the Chiefs beat the Raiders.
Yeah,
I guess even if the Chiefs lose to the Raiders, somehow you would want Buffalo as well to lose. But
it's to maintain the buffer they already have right now.
yes,
Yes,
yeah.
right.
But you expect the Chiefs to win this game, especially having lost to the Raiders last year at home. They probably are a little bit irked about that loss, which was the last loss that they had had until the Buffalo game came around. So it was very close to actually being, playing them
A
again.
calendar year without a loss.
Yeah,
They nearly made it.
they nearly made it. But again, like you said, maybe the Chiefs have the monkey off their back because they're not, worried so much about perfection any longer. Maybe they just winning football games, getting to the playoffs, winning playoff games, and getting back to the Super Bowl is their number one concern right now.
Yeah,
We've Speaking of number one concerns, have we completed another fantastic episode of the Warning Track Power
I think we have
Hour?
number
Good.
one concern. Yes,
I was going to because it's concerned. I think we are. Well, we weren't undefeated last week in our locks of the week, that was for sure. But I think we are undefeated in having outstanding, hard hitting, hair splitting analysis and reasoning and journalism and whatever you want to call it on the Warren Track Power Hour. We have a crack squad of researchers and statisticians, mathematicians, uh, other
at the ready, 24/7.
dietitians. Uh,
Really?
I don't know about that. I was just thinking other titians, morticians. So hopefully not.
Uh-oh.
But we 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 appreciate all of them. We also appreciate you as viewers and or listeners. So we're going to wrap it up here this week at the One Trick Power Hour. And as always, I am Dr. Michael Werman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the One Trick Power Hour. Please like and or subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast, which is available on many different podcast delivery platforms. We also wish you best of luck this weekend. Hope you have a happy Thanksgiving and watch all the football games. And we hope if you're betting on any of the games, we wish you good luck in your bets, as long as your bets do not, uh, what was the phrasing I usually use? As long as your interests do not conflict with our interests.
Yes, there you go.
There's my Godfather reference. Um,
There you go.
Yeah, there we go. So I said what I said, and we will say it again next week on the Winter Power when we talk about week 14's action. Maybe some more baseball stuff, maybe some more
Hot
uh,
stove.
hot stove. Maybe we'll talk about a Juan Soto signing for the Royals if we can really dream. Because supposedly he's starting to get offers floating in the next few days. So we'll see what happens with that. Um, but most
We'll
likely,
see how good you are willing things into existence, Mike.
yeah. Well, I probably, yeah. We'll see. We will see next week. So let's not wait any longer and adjourn this week's edition of the One Trick Power Hour. And until next time, we wish you a good day.